Hi there, Mark Simon, and this is my memoir, Attacked, about when my family and I were assaulted by my high school bullies, and they attacked everyone in my family. One of the elements in my book I talk a lot about is this, my 1963 T-Bird. This is the car that I was driving when I was 16 when all the attacks happened. And this car literally saved my life. And there's some very specific things about this car that I thought you should know about. This car has actually been in my, not this, but the actual car, has been in my family since it was new. And my dad bought it in 1963. It was white at the time, and he saved it. In fact, here's a picture of me on my dad's shoulders in front of this car. And when I got my driver's license, my parents said, well, they would buy me a new car, basically anything I wanted, or I could have this old antique and he would pay for any parts or any refurbishing so I could learn about cars. And I thought, well, that sounds really cool. I'll do that. So I repainted it midnight blue, and I did a lot of things to it, which all helped me during the attacks. I rebuilt the carburetor. In fact, I rebuilt from beginning to end all new brake lines, gas lines, power steering, every part of the power steering. Most of the electrical I redid. I also took off these, see these little fender inserts here that cut off half the tire? I took those out. I put in a pneumatic air compressor in the back, and I jacked up the back. I put on wire rim wheels. The front suspension I beefed up. I'll get into in a second. And the electrical, one of the things that's really interesting in this vehicle is that it had power windows and power steering. Now in 1963, that was unusual. This was like the Cadillac of cars. I mean, this was one of the top cars that you could buy in 1963. It was really known for these torpedo taillights and tail fins. So as you can imagine, whenever I was driving to school, this is like a big target on my back. And it became an issue because, after the attack, and I was in this car during the initial attack, everyone knew where I was after school, before and after school, because they would just wait for me at my car, and they sliced my tires at times. But a couple things that were really beneficial on how this saved me so much. So on the initial night when about 30 of the guys jumped me and my buddy, I was driving. My buddy was in the passenger seat, and while you can't see it here, I'll put up a picture. When everyone was reaching through the window and beating on us, I yelled, lean over, roll up the windows. Well, in this, most cars now all have the electric window switch on the door. Well, that wasn't the case in the 63 T-Bird. In this, the window switches were on the center console. So we could lean away from the windows and push the button on the console to roll up the windows. And they were relatively quick. So that helped us a lot. Another thing that really helped us in this car was when I tried to get away from everyone that night, I missed the exit, as I write about in the car, and there was a ditch between where we were and the main road to get out. But I didn't see another way to get out of there, so I hopped the curb. We drove across this open field, and they had recently, in that area, had dug out the ditches. So there was a mounds of dirt on both sides from having dug it out. Well, I hit that mound of dirt with my car, and it threw it up in the air. But like I said, I beefed up the front, and I really enhanced the back suspension. So my car went in the air. This old 63, this thing weighed tons, jumped over the ditch and landed in the middle of the road, and instead of bottoming out, it landed and it bounced a little bit, and I swirled around and we took off. So thank goodness I had done all that to the suspension, or I don't know if we would have made that jump. And one of the other things I remember greatly about this car is the last time the guys attacked me, I was on a date, and the car was parked off on one side. I was over here playing frisbee with my girlfriend Michelle, and I turn and I see the guys over there behind us running at me, armed. I ran around the car, hopped in, and as I was about to turn the key, I was thinking, I hope it starts. Because it's an antique car. If you've ever owned an antique car, you know that not everything works all the time. And I was thinking this old car, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and all these guys are running up closer and closer to my car. I was thinking, please, please, please start. Roared to life really quickly, and I was able to get out. So thank goodness I kept this thing in good shape. So I held on to this car. So when I graduated high school, here's some info that's not in the book. When I graduated high school, my parents bought me a Trans Am, a Recaro Trans Am, which is the new style, kind of like Kit the Wonder Car. And so that's what I drove to college. I kept it in storage at my parents' house. And then after college, I moved to Hollywood to start working on movies. And I drove out there originally with my Trans Am. I flew back once I had settled there and got a rental truck for some furniture, and I towed this car out there. So then I had two of my cars. Now, while I was in college, I bought a house when I was in college, and I was driving from my house to school, and I saw this really gorgeous truck. So I bought my first truck then in Nacogdoches, Texas. I went to SFA, and I bought a 4x4 full-size Blazer. So I also brought that out to LA. So when I was living in LA and designing movies, I had all three of my cars out there with me, and it was great. I had my hot rod for hitting Mulholland, I had my 4x4 for going off-roading, and I had my cruising machine, my old 63 T-Bird. Now, the engine was falling apart at that point. In fact, it was rusting into one big solid brick. But it was fun. Now, the cool thing about LA is that it never rains. So this was a hardtop car. I cut the top off when I lived down in LA, so I called it my converted. I still had it as my not my baby blue, my deep sea blue vehicle. But I would cruise around without the top on, and that was fun. And then after I met my wife, and she and I decided to move to Orlando to help open up Nickelodeon, this is what we sold. We sold the old T-Bird, and that paid for our move. So this thing has done me well over the years. It was quite a car. It was a lot of fun. I don't miss the upkeep of an old antique, but this was definitely a great car to have while I was going through all those problems.